guys. I switched it to Friday because Tuesday I just felt like we need to get you some information before the weekend, before you're going to open houses. And I know some people are off on the weekends, but in the real estate world, we work on the weekend. So I'm available almost every Saturday and Sunday to assist buyers over the weekend. That's when the sellers are available. So if the loan officer is available, the agent is available, and the buyer is available, as well as the seller, why not execute on a Sunday or a Saturday so that way we can start our Mondays off with new business? So I am, guys, coming to you this week. This is probably the last week I'm going to come to you about down payment assistance. I normally don't pitch down payment assistance. I know we've been getting a lot of applications, some rough applications and some good ones. So I want everyone to understand that even though we have down payment assistance, and it is for everyone if they're purchasing in a targeted area. And what that means is if they make $300,000 a year, but they're purchasing in a target area, they can't qualify. If you are qualifying your clients for this grant, they still have to be able to pay their mortgage. They still, every borrower, even if they need no money at closing, I think should have at least $3,000 in the bank account, because it is, an opportunity, but we want to leave our borrowers in a position where they can afford their mortgages and they can make good decisions and they can build wealth off these purchases. Because sometimes when people aren't really ready, this can be a mishap and it could turn into the worst decision that they've ever made. So with that being said, we really want to work with the clients and put them in really good situations. So if you have clients and they may need housing or counseling, we do work with NHS. We do work with agencies in Woodlawn and Oak Park, because we want to get the clients to purchase the home and stay in the home. So the reason why I am marketing this one so hard, and this is actually two, is because these grants that are available today, and I've been doing this for about 20 years, and these grants actually have an interest rate comparable to what the interest rates are. What does that mean? You see a lot of loan officers talking about no money down. Come on, what you waiting on? Get it through, right? Real talking real fast. But those programs, the interest rate on that first is so much higher. If my market rate is 6.5 and the rate on that is 7.625, and I'm paying interest on the second mortgage or the grants per se, is it really a grant if I am paying all of this extra money? So you have to take the cost of what would it be if you didn't get the grant? What would your mortgage payment be? And then what is it if you get the grant? So say, for instance, your mortgage is $1,500 with no grant and $2,000 with the grant. If your grant is $5,000 and your mortgage payment is increasing by $500, and this is an astronomical number, but I'm doing it for quick math, then that means if you're required to stay in that loan for 5 years, after 10 months, that grant, right, that free money is now costing you $500 a month for the rest of the duration of that time. So that grant is putting you in a situation where you're paying somebody else instead of building equity. And I can talk to clients directly to compare that. So I know that was a lot of information. So we're going to get into the fun of it all. And what we have is 2 down payment assistance programs. We have CHA, which is by far my favorite grant because I am a landlord and I have CHA recipients, right? Section 8 voucher holders. And they were put on the CHA program a long time ago, and their kids were inheriting vouchers. Now CHA is saying, look, I'm going to help you purchase a home and I'm going to help you pay your mortgage instead of paying Natasha's mortgage or the other landlord's mortgage. But guess what it's doing? It's building wealth for them. It's giving help, and it's showing their children and their children's children a different trajectory, because now child sees mom as a homeowner. And when we see our parents as something, we sometimes become what we saw and even better. So this is such an inspiration for me. I love the grant so much because it is taking individuals on Section 8 and putting into them to home ownership positions, encouraging them to use their talents and obtain jobs and get education and be all they can be, and don't feel like they have to hold themselves back because they are stuck in this particular CHAC program or CHA program where they don't want their income to be too high because then they'll lose their free rent. So I'm completely excited. And what I also love about the CHA grant is that there's no interest rate on the CHA grant, right? And in addition to that, it is just the free is, if you qualify, down payment assistance, because they aren't charging you an extra dollar to do it, which is absolutely amazing. And you got to take that 8-hour home buyer course, which is not a bad thing because it helps you know what's going on. My buyers from CHA are super ready. They have good credit. They have to save their $3,000. They're linked with resources and opportunities, and they've been educated. They've been educated how to shop for the right lender, how to shop for the right realtor. They have true financial literacy when it comes to home ownership. So kudos to you, CHA and Jimmy and you guys over there, because I am not saying this because I closed a lot of the deals with you. I am saying this because you are far down the cheapest down payment assistance program and an inspiration to a lot of individuals. Now we'll go into my Cook County grant. Right? The Cook County grant is the new grant that's out. It's only $8.6 million in this grant. I suspect that it's going to be gone in about 3 weeks to 30 days. Last time it went away in 2 months and it was almost triple the amount of funds. So we are working with less money and it's a great opportunity. I just priced out a conventional loan and I was able to give someone 6.875 and still give them 3%. We use some of the grants to buy down the rate, but we use the other grant to help them get into the property. Well, guess what? They have a lower interest rate than they were going to have before, lower monthly insurance, and they also now have $12,000. And I am clear to close on that one. That is my first grant. It was my guinea pig. We closed in about 2.5 weeks. Congratulations. I am so excited to have put one under the books, as this grant has only been out for a couple of weeks, but we did move that one very fast. She qualified. I was able to put her in a lower payment and save her $12,000 at closing. And her interest rate, because she locked in on the first day, was 6.625 on a conventional loan, which is absolutely crazy. So excited for her. And in addition to that, I had an FHA client that we got for 6.75%, right? Everybody's situation is going to be different, right? And then we were also able to get them 4% in down payment assistance with the APR at about 6.99%. So just saying that to say, you're getting low interest rates and you're getting money, which is absolutely amazing. So I know I've seen some things on Facebook where people don't like down payment assistance. They think it's the ghetto loan, but renting instead of owning, should not be an option. So if this can help you bridge that gap, and for all my people that make $300,000, $200,000, you living in that nice high-rise downtown, you have the opportunity to purchase a home. You only have to live in it for 1 year, build some equity, build some wealth, and then you can utilize that property to move on to your next transaction. Because what we don't want to do is wake up in 25 years and still have to work because we didn't put things in place for us to retire. Because what people don't understand is that after we pay off our house after 30 years, there is no mortgage. And now we don't have to work every day. That's one less bill that we'll have to pay. So I get a little passionate about all of that, but this is a grant game changer. Once again, you won't see me sharing a lot of Zooms about grants. It's not what I do. But today I am going because I'm letting you guys know that this is a real grant. Has a lower interest rate. It is available to you guys and you can purchase in Cook County. It's $25,000. That's the max. So you have to purchase a house for $500,000 in order to get the full $25,000. Why? Because they're giving you 5% of the purchase price. So 5%, if you're purchasing for $300,000, is $15,000. So you would qualify for the 5% of the purchase price. And guess what? You can have your seller negotiate, have your agent negotiate some closing costs. So the grant can cover down payment and closing costs, and the seller can give you a credit for closing costs. The seller cannot pay down payment. They can only pay closing costs, but the grant can pay down payment and closing costs. Let me say that again. If the seller was willing to give you the max closing cost credit, that is totally fine, but you can only use that credit towards your closing costs. In order for you to get your down payment taken care of by a third party, it has to be in the form of a grant or it has to come from your checking and savings account. So I'm only saying that to say is know the difference, but you can combine a grant and the closing cost credit to put yourself borrower in a situation where they're not bringing much money to close, and they can keep that money that we wanted them to save in their savings account so they can live through any hardship that may come. Because hardships will come with real estate. When you're an owner and your furnace breaks down, you have to fix it. If you have tenants and you have to pay for things in their units, you have to fix it. So you definitely want to have some money, no matter how much grant money you get. You want to have some money in your bank account so you can prepare yourself to stay ready and make sure you're ready for anything that may come your way, right? This grant is not for first-time home buyers. You can be a owner and have one other property. So if you own one other property at the time of closing, I can still do this particular grant for you, which is awesome and amazing, right? No first-time home buyer. It just has to be the primary residence. This particular grant is for 1 and 2 units only. That is a house. We call them single family residences, SFR, right? That is a house, a single family residence. It could be a townhome. It can be a condo. It can be a 2-unit property, but it cannot be a 3 or 4 unit. On my CHA grant, I can go to 3 to 4 units on my CHA grant, but on the Cook County, it must not exceed 2 units. So keep that in mind. And then we're going to do that segue into the Cook County grant, right? So we're stacking $45,000. So how can we stack $45,000? So the only way you can get $45,000 is if you are a CHA resident. What that means is that you have a voucher. And if you have a voucher, CHA will pay you $20,000 to purchase a house, right? If you are not a voucher holder, they will give you, and they won't pay you, but you'll qualify for their grant for $20,000. If you're not a CHA resident, it's okay. You can still get the $10,000. So let's talk about that, okay? So the CHA grant is available for residents. However, they make them choose one or the other. So you can either get $20,000 or they can pay that mortgage for 15 or 30 years or whatever they go over within your session with them, okay? So with that being said, I always recommend my voucher holders to opt out of the $20,000, because if they're paying your mortgage for $2,000 a month, right? After 1 year, that's $20,000 right there, $24,000. Now, you stay there. If they do it for 15 years, add that money up, right? So we don't want to leave money on the table to take a fast 20,000. We're gaining financial literacy. We're getting smart here. So we're going to make the best bang for our buck. So what we're going to say is, you know what, CHA, thank you for that 20,000, but I would rather you pay my mortgage for 15 years or 30 years for 1,500 or 2,000, because that's going to be more than $20,000. And then I am going to say, hey, Cook County grant with the 25,000, I'm going to use your grant for the down payment and closing costs. I can have my agent negotiate some other closing costs. I'm going to only take 25,000 and my mortgage being paid by CHA for those years that they pay it. So that is my recommendation for CHA residents. Now, you may be somebody with a voucher who pays 100% of your portion. So once again, every situation is different, but I advise all CHA residents to check in with their counselor, and you talk to them and you make the best decision for them, for your family, after you speak with them and see what they will do. CHA has done some amazing things. I have a client where she was the first person to qualify, where they gave her $20,000 and they're paying her mortgage. So they gave some extra money away. So you want to normalize knowing your counselor, so you're aware of any promotions that they come up that you can take advantage of, okay? So now, say for instance, you're not a resident. We said, okay, I can either take 45,000 or I could take the 25,000 Cook County grant and let CHA pay my mortgage because I'm a CHA resident. Awesome and amazing. Now, if you are not a resident and you qualify for CHA, you can take the 10,000 and stack it with the 25,000. So now you are getting 35,000. So if you're not a CHA resident, the max grant available for you at this time would be $35,000 unless you work for a company that has another grant that we can stack on where they're going to pre-fund that loan, that grant, and give you additional monies to purchase a house. I will tell you that the CHA grant is a little different from the Cook County. If you qualify for the CHA and you're purchasing a 1 or 2 unit property, you will most likely, almost 99%, qualify for the Cook County grant. Why? Because my income limits are so much lower on the CHA program. Cook County grant, I can go to 143,000, and if it's in a targeted area, I have zero limit, okay? Which is why the grant is gonna go fast. But if you are in a targeted area, my income limit is 143,000, okay? So with that being said, that is the difference. Now let's look at my little grid here. I know it's super small, but if you have a 1-person household for CHA, you cannot make more than $61,800. Cook County, you can make 143. So if you make 61, you will most likely qualify for both. But if you make 143, you will only qualify for the Cook County grant, and you will no longer qualify for CHA because you make too much money. So hopefully I'm doing that correlation well for you so you can kind of work the program and see how it works. 2-person household, meaning it's you and you have 1 child, you can make $70,000 a year. You and 2 kids, $79,000, and then 3 dependents, $88,000. Now, if it's in an AMI zone, right, that is something that your lender will look up for you. Now it increases a bit. So if the property is in a 120% AMI area, they can make $92,000. If it's they can make $105,000 with the 2 dependents, and they can make all the way up to $132,000. So once again, it's just going to depend on where the property is to determine if I can stack the grant. So keep that in mind. And this is how I am combining the 2 together, so that way you can have that combo. Now, you can't get money back at the table in these grants. So if you get so much money, I'll just lower your loan amount, so that way you owe less and you have more equity that you can share with your family in the future. If you're purchasing something else, or if you're utilizing it to pay for college, you'll just have that built-in equity immediately when you close. We went over the highlights for CHA. There is no minimum credit score for CHA. The debt to income ratio is 45%. You could purchase a 1, 2, 3 unit property. You have to be a first-time home buyer for CHA. And y'all know that I'm a renovation specialist. Like, I do 203K all day, VA, conventional home style, Freddie Mac. I do all the renovation loans. And this is the only grant I can combine with the renovation loan. Yes, you heard it here today at Loans by Natasha. So I can use that CHA grant and combine it with the renovation, and I can go to a 4 unit. So even though you won't get 35,000, if you're buying a 3 to 4 unit, but getting 10,000 is still a blessing. And it still puts you in an opportunity where you can get into the property for less money. And like I always tell all my clients, you can negotiate that seller credit to help you with those closing costs that's working with that loan as well. We went over the difference between the 20,000 using a voucher and the 10,000. In this presentation, it will be sent to everyone that registered today. So definitely keep that in mind, but we just wanted to break it down. I know that I do talk fast sometimes, so I try to slow it down. I get excited about my programs, but I wanted you guys to have everything broken down for you, so that way you can read through it. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to ask me those questions. Stacking the grant, we can stack this grant with other organizations. I know University of Chicago has a program where if you purchase sometimes in Woodlawn, or if you purchase in South Shore, they have monies available to keep you closer to the university. If you qualify for any of those type of grants, I can stack them in addition to what we already have going on. So we can keep on stacking them as long as you're getting them and they are self-funded, meaning the institutions that are giving the grant monies are sending the wire from the funds to the closing, okay? Income and area guidelines. The targeted areas require no income limit, and this is talking about our Cook County grant. And then the 143,000 is the limits for the Cook County if it's not in a targeted area. So yeah, so once again, guys, you have so many different options. We went over the Cook County grant today. We went over the CHA grant. I'm not going to put another name on it, so that way you can't research this information on your own. I'm going to give you the exact information that you need, so that way you can utilize it to assist with your clients and help them get to the finish line. If you or your client wants to get pre-approved, I like to share these documents with clients. Why? Because everybody wants their pre-approval right away. I can pre-approve your loan in 15 minutes, but I need a certain set of documents to make that happen. So if you're watching, if you're listening, this is the cheat sheet, so that way you can get in and get out. Even though we always have myself, I do have a big team. I have Tim in the back. He's like a ghost. You don't see him, but he's always working. I have Colleen sitting to the right, Corey sitting to my left. I have an intern, Alea. So we have a huge team. So if you're able to do the application and submit your documents, we're able to move you quickly. So we're always wanting 2 recent pay stubs within 30 days, the 23 and 24 W-2s. And then we ask for the last pay stub in 23 and 24. You can download those on your portal and send them right over to me. And it has to be the last payday. So if you were paid in January of the following year, I need the one before that. The pay date has to be in December. Why do I need that? Because I have clients that sometimes they get 40 hours and sometimes they get 30 hours. And that makes them variable, right? That means their income is not fixed. It changes from pay period to pay period. I have clients that get overtime. I have clients that get bonuses, right? I have clients that get severances and all types of things. The W-2 doesn't break down how they got to the number. The last pay stub does. So we ask for those last pay stubs, so that way we don't have to wait on a third-party verification to get your documents, and it allows me to really dig in and give you a real pre-approval that's going to work and get you to the finish line quickly. Okay. And then of course we need one bank statement, looking to make sure that clients don't have insufficient funds. If you have insufficient funds and you haven't applied yet, you want to start your accounts over. You don't want to have insufficient funds when you are going to underwriting. I will tell you that, because it makes your underwrite a little more difficult sometimes. And the underwriters are watching everything. And we want to make sure that you can afford your loan. So you want to make sure that you can afford your loan and that your paperwork tells you can afford your loan too, right? I had a client that had $90,000 in one account. He had another account he wasn't paying attention to. He had like 25 insufficient funds. So he was literally just wasting money in fees. He had all this other money. The accounts weren't linked. But once I was able to work with him, we were able to get a lot of those credited and put him in a situation where it didn't happen again. So we do get a copy of your bank statement, because you may not be aware of the things that's going on with your account. If you're self-employed, we sometimes need 1 year taxes. Sometimes we need 2. If you haven't heard about it yet, next week I'm going to be talking about how you can do no documents and just give me your bank statements for 12 months, or do no bank statements at all and just do the DSCR loan. So that is coming to you hot off the press next week, because we're going to be giving you all types of mortgages to help you get to the finish line. How do you apply? You can scan here, or you can always go to loansbynatasha.com, and I can assist you. Like I said, once you call, you'll meet me or my team. I do see all the calls, and I do try to get back to everyone, and I look forward to servicing you guys. So I know that was a lot of information, but I'm here to bring it to you. That's my job. I will be tuning in every Friday at 12 p.m. for lunch and loans. And I want to stay connected. So if you're not following me on Instagram, please do so at Loans by Natasha. My website is loansbynatasha.com. And I will see you guys later. If you have questions, you can email me at natasha@grarate.com, and you guys will get a copy of this video, and it'll also be on my YouTube page. Have an amazing day, and I hope my information will help you get another client.